Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Our Roots and Tea, where we continue to discuss very existential topics, spirituality, meditation, self-growth, personal growth. And we always talk to different types of guests with different professions, different life experiences, and kind of just see how and break it down to see how it's all really linked to everyone really what we
Mhm.
experience. And today we have a very talented guest. Her name is Rosie Beltran. Is that how you pronounce the last name? Okay,
Yeah,
I don't want to
yeah.
butcher it.
I butcher my own last name,
Okay.
so I have
Okay.
people who correct me when I say my last name. It's like, "Whoa, it's my last name. I can say it how I want."
That's funny. But yeah, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
fun.
yeah, no, it's really cool. And yeah, Rosie, she's a very fantastic production designer here in the film industry, and she's worked on a bunch of projects. I know the
Mhm.
last film she's done, I saw her posted. It was like it's this horror film called Big Freaking Rat. I saw the trailer. I
Yeah.
saw the trailer of that, but yeah, I haven't actually checked out yet. And I know she's also been involved in a lot of big network projects. You know, talking about Lifetime Originals, BET Networks, all that, all the big stuff that she's kind of had a hand in, which is just pretty awesome. So
Mhm.
whoever's listening, hire her. She needs
Yeah,
work.
please.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Well,
Um,
anyways, so I do want to obviously go a little bit, kind of talk a little bit about Rosie's backstory here. So I mean, kind of want to know a little bit about why, what is the fascination with production design? Like why production design out of anything you could have chosen?
okay, so I actually originally wanted to do camera. I
Mm,
wanted to be an AC, and because I loved taking pictures since I was really little, we used to buy a bunch of the disposable cameras, and I was always taking pictures of everything. So I actually have a big box full of a lot of photos that I've taken since I was in elementary school. So I have my life documented, and then I transitioned to videotaping everything when video cameras came out and they were kind of small. So I decided, you know what? I'm always documenting everything. I think this is what I should be doing. And I tried to do AC work, but it was just really competitive and hard. And I wasn't getting anywhere. So I experimented with art stuff and figured out, you know what? I actually really enjoy doing art because I'm very creative. I was always into crafting, making things. So it's like, you know what? I don't know why I didn't think about that, but it's it's actually really great. It feeds my creativity more so than camera work.
mm,
And so I just decided to go in that direction, and I've enjoyed it. It's really fit me well, and that's where I belong because I love visually putting a world together. I like designing a world, bringing it to life, and you know, decorating and props, and having fun with characters, props, and items. So that's how I got to that department.
okay. Wait, so you didn't, so did you not feel like you were getting the same kind of creativity feel from camera? Because you could still craft the world from camera.
Yeah, well, I know I know that, but for me personally, I wasn't getting the AC work.
Mm,
So I wasn't growing in that department because it's very competitive. You get one AC, first AC, you got 1 second second AC,
Mhm.
and that's it. But at least, so it was very competitive. I wasn't able to grow in that. So I decided, you know what, I need to find a different department where I know I'm going to be able to grow. And I found that with art. In art, you can have several um, roles and positions. So I just, for some reason, it just clicked with me in that department. I love camera. I still do. It's still fun, but for me, I realized that production design is where I fit. I just feel like that's where I can grow. I feel like um I'm satisfying my creativity
Okay.
in that. Yeah.
And because you talked about how you love to craft, craft characters, craft objects, decorate. So
Mhm.
were you, as a kid, were you doing that too? As a kid, how
Mhm.
when how a lot of times when you're a kid, usually you'll play with dolls or play with like Play-Doh. You start like building stuff.
Yeah.
Were you kind of like that?
Yeah, so I was never into dolls.
Okay.
um I had some Barbies, but I just never was one to play with dolls.
Okay.
And I always wanted to make stuff. So I would sew like purses, sew things. I would get clay, the type of clay that you could just bake in the oven. And I was always making little figurines and stuff. And then as I got older, I started to um, make items like, I don't know, just started decorating and making things. As I got older, it started to evolve, and I was just always someone who liked to make stuff, crafts, and
Mhm.
that's just kind of always what I've done. I'm an only child, so I didn't have siblings to play with, and
Mm.
my parents were always working. So growing up, my great grandma would babysit me, and she would make stuff with me. So I really enjoyed that, and I kind of carried that through my life as I got older. As I was always creating stuff. Even now, I still do stuff for myself, making little crafts. Like last year I got into making miniature stuff. I bought those little kits and started making little miniature scenes and really got involved with that. And it's just something I've always done. So I thought, why not do it professionally?
Mm. Mhm.
Because that's where I see myself, not working like a corporate job.
Right. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And then I guess, in order to have that kind of imagination and creativity, obviously to build all like a whole world, then my guess is that my assumption that you are a pretty big movie fan, right? Because you're inspired by movies,
Hmm.
I'm sure.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Of course. I mean, it would be so silly if I wasn't a fan of movies working in the industry. It's like, what? How can you work in the industry but not be a fan of movies?
Well, true, but the
It's
only
so
reason,
weird.
well, yes and no, because the reason why is, I do know people where, just because they do, or like in that certain field or do that certain job, like once
Hmm.
they get off work, they kind of just do other things because it's almost one of those things where like, oh, all day I'm already doing that, so afterwards I want to take a
Okay.
break in something else, right? Um, but no, you make a good point, and so my follow up question from that was, what was one of the kind of your, I get the movie that gives you like the major inspiration, the one that kind of pushed you.
Hmm. You know, don't think don't think a movie was what inspired me to get into film,
Mm.
honestly.
Oh,
Even
okay.
though I love movies,
Yeah.
I know my genre. That was something I was like, yeah, that's so cool, which is horror.
Mm.
I grew up watching horror movies because of my great grandma
Mm.
who would babysit me, and she would make stuff with me when I was with her. And she also had me watch a lot of horror movies, which for my age at the time was not a good thing because I was really little, so I was afraid of a lot of things.
Mhm.
But when I got older, I realized, I love horror movies because that's what I grew up watching, and it would be really fun to do that, to make those things and be part of that and see how all that comes together. So horror genre
Mm.
is what really made me excited
Mm. And then
to
are you
do.
talking about like all types of horror films or specific?
I know I like all horror.
Okay.
I guess naturally I kind of just gravitate to, or I just love watching vampire movies because
Oh,
my
okay.
great grandma loves vampire movies.
Mm.
So that's what I, watched a lot of those, and I have a soft spot for vampire movies, that type of genre. But any horror genre is really fun to do, even if it's campy,
Mm.
silly to serious.
Mm.
It's just really fun because you can have so much fun with horror.
Yeah.
The gore, the scary aspects. It's just, anything goes really with horror because
Yeah.
it's a world that you can create, make
Yeah.
your own rules, and just have fun with it.
Right. Well, yeah, that's true. Any movies is like, you can establish like your own world and
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
But I know what you mean by horror. Okay. Then let me ask you this, because you say you like watching vampire movies. Then what do you
Mhm.
consider Twilight to be then? Because that's
I knew you were going to say that. I don't agree that it's a vampire movie,
okay.
but then I'm going against what I said, that you can make your own rules. So it's, yes, it's a vampire movie, I guess. Personally, for me, I think it's silly because there's no traditional vampire at all in it. But it's for a different generation of people
Hmm. Hmm.
who grew up with Twilight. I was a little too old already when Twilight came about.
Yeah.
My version of vampires was Interview with the Vampire,
Mm.
Anne Rice.
Yeah.
So, those, I read those books.
Yes.
So, but there's the newer generation, and that's their vampire. So
Yeah.
that's their version of Anne Rice.
Hmm.
But personally, me, I'm like, that's not a vampire movie.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not really a horror genre either, so it's not.
No,
Yeah.
it's more of like just drama.
Yeah.
I don't really consider that horror.
Right. Okay. Okay. And now, I guess now, just to kind of pivot into another direction, is that okay, this is something that you love to do, you're passionate about, and then I know,
Mm-hmm.
of course, you and I had talked a little bit before about how it's been kind of rough for you the past year or so in this field, in production design, especially, because you just
Mm-hmm.
mentioned to me that it was very hard for you to even get work. So, I mean,
Yeah.
how's that been, and what's happening there?
Um, yeah, things have been really slow last year, obviously, because coronavirus hit
Right.
March.
Yeah.
So I actually got lucky because I was able to work right before um the lockdown took place. Actually, I wrapped a movie the day before lockdown.
Mhm.
So, but I had difficulties finding work when I was in AC, but I found when I transitioned over to art that
Yeah.
I actually found more work.
Uh-huh.
So, um probably the last 2 years though, it was a little rough. It was a little inconsistent with work, especially 2019, I believe. I found it a little difficult, but also I'm in a program for to help me get into union. So that was a contributing factor to difficulty with work, because I'm pretty much doing school. I'm doing these classes, more hands-on classes to train me for union. So that made it kind of difficult to work projects. So I had to be selective and find things that weren't long, like weeks. I couldn't do a project that was like weeks long because I had classes that I needed to do. And that is my priority because that is going to get me into union. That's still my priority. Last year I was supposed to submit all my work and test, but then, we had the lockdown, and ever since then, it's not really possible for me to test right now. I'm hoping maybe this year they're talking about it, being able to maybe test. So hopefully, but as of right now, it's kind of on pause. And since the pandemic, things being really not, it's like it's kind of safe, but not really. Do I really want to risk it? No. I think right now I'm just going to focus on trying to be safe, take work, but also have to be realistic. Is like, is this really going to benefit me? I have, if I get a day, like a 1 day on something, is it really going to benefit me? Is it going to help me? Is it safe? So I think that's why I'm kind of just sticking with working this temporary job at the bookstore, because I don't have to worry about financial problems. I don't know. I guess part of me right now just kind of just wants some sort of reliable stability, because last year was just so horrible. And it wasn't just for me. I mean, it was for everybody. But going through last year, it was just so mentally horrible. And I feel like I just need some sort of stability right now. And naturally, freelancing isn't stable, as you know. I call us like pirates, because we do a job and then we got to look for a new one, and we go to a new one, and I just since last year was so horrible, I just feel like I need some sort of stability and something that I can count on, just so I can work on feeling I don't know, feeling myself, feeling happy again, and being comfortable with being a filmmaker again, because I just feel like I lost that part of myself last year, and it was just so hard. It was just horrible and hard. So it's the beginning of the year, staying positive and just really hoping that I'll get that back, because I don't feel like I really have it right now. And it's just been really hard mentally with that. So, I'm hoping with this year, it feels like things are kind of getting in control. So I'm just like keeping fingers crossed and ready to just dive in when I feel for myself that it's going to be beneficial.
Okay. Got a couple questions there. I mean, one, I mean, throughout the whole year last year, I mean, because you talked about how, getting a job obviously helping you in terms of mentally, like a stability type. And was there anything else that you're doing to try to make yourself, I guess, mentally feel better? I mean, I don't know if you have certain other activities or routines that you're doing.
Hmm. Yeah. So I did some crafting stuff. I started doing the miniature things,
Mhm.
like the miniature diagrams,
Mhm.
and I decided to take up roller skating.
Mm, cool.
So I thought, you know what? I'm gonna give that a shot and kind of give me something to focus on. So I took up roller skating, and they're just I just just got like artsy projects for myself. So I redid my room. Haven't I haven't changed my room since I was in high school, and that's it's like 10-15 years. So I decided, okay, I'm gonna do my whole room. So completely got rid of everything, changed, repainted it, got new furniture. So, that was kind of feeding my creativity,
Mhm.
creating my environment in my room, making it fit the person I am now. Because when I was in high school, I wasn't, I'm not that person anymore, and my room didn't reflect me. So I thought, okay, you know what? I want to make my room reflect who I am now. So I got to do that. That took a couple months of
Mhm.
just um, redecorating it
Mhm.
and making it fit, making me feel better. And it actually made me feel a little bit better to have my personal space reflect who I am now.
Mhm.
And so I did that. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And then just finding some sort of physical activity, which I've been doing with the roller skating. Haven't done much of it now because I, got sick in December,
Yeah.
and it hasn't physical activities not I have to be careful
Yeah.
with physical activity
Yeah.
because yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's actually another thing too, is that it must be obviously really tough for you because, you're doing all those things throughout the year and then you felt like there's progress and you're doing better. And then of course you told me that, you and your family, had COVID, got sick,
Mhm. Mhm.
and then, I know you told me about how there was like a really kind of dangerous moment, I guess, within your family.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
yeah, so how, I mean, just take me through all that experience and how do you ultimately kind of overcome all that?
Well, so in my household, it's me, my parents, and we got COVID the week of Christmas,
Mm,
and we got very lucky because it was very minor,
mhm,
all three of us. But even though it's the minor symptoms in the minor case, it still wasn't entirely, we weren't safe.
yeah.
Um, it was like a really bad flu that just would not let up. So
Mm,
every, all throughout the day, on and off, fever, body chills, um, what is it? Body chills.
shortness of breath.
No, that came after.
Oh, okay.
Oh, not eating, no appetite,
Okay.
nauseate, being nauseous, headaches. It was just constant
Mhm,
all throughout the day. So that was about the first week. For me, that was it. Uh, after like 7-8 days, my fever stopped, my body ache stopped. I started to get hungry again. I was getting my appetite. I noticed that I had shortness of breath. So if I just walking up the stairs made me exhausted, and I was like,
mm,
um, my parents, the same thing. They had the same symptoms, but theirs lasted longer.
mm,
And after we got into the second week of being sick, I started to make improvements, but my parents were still the same. And we, my boyfriend David, his brother is a doctor. So David also, he was with us. He tested positive, but he had no symptoms. He was very lucky.
Wow.
So he took care of me and my parents because he
Wow.
had no symptoms. We were all unable to do things.
Yeah.
We couldn't cook. We couldn't feed ourselves. We weren't hungry. So he took care of us, and his brother is a doctor in Washington. So he was advising us over the phone, so David was in contact with him, letting him know what was going on with us. So his brother was, trying to take care of us as well. So we bought a oxygen tester, and, he was testing us to, monitor our oxygen, because that was kind of that's the dangerous part, is if your oxygen is getting low and you're not aware, that's the problem. That's a big problem. So I was fine, but my parents, however, were having issues with their oxygen levels. So my mom was the first one to go to the emergency room, and we found out that she got pneumonia, which is very common. You can get pneumonia from coronavirus.
Yeah.
So she got pneumonia, and they sent her home the same day, which was a good thing. So she was okay. My dad, however, oxygen level was just really bad. He was coughing. He didn't want to take any medicine. He didn't want to eat. He couldn't even get up to shower or go to the bathroom, really. He just was just not doing well. We tested his oxygen the same day that we took my mom to the emergency room. David noticed that my dad's face was like red, and he was like, your dad's face has been really red. It looks like he's like not, like, it's like he's not getting oxygen. Tested him. His oxygen was so bad. It was like down to the 80s, which is not good. That's like the no safe zone.
Wow.
And dropped him off to the emergency room like an hour after my mom. And they told us, okay, no, he has to stay. His oxygen is really bad. He needs to be on a breathing. We need to give him actual oxygen.
Yeah.
He wasn't on a ventilator. He didn't get that bad, but he had to stay in the hospital, and they had to monitor him and then help him to basically build up his immune system so he can actually breathe properly and build that back up. So he was in the hospital for 2 weeks.
Wow.
And it was just, he sounded horrible. He lost a lot of weight. He lost 25 pounds. His oxygen right now, his breathing is okay. He does still struggle. He had the worst part of it. Even though it was still minor, he still had the worst. And yeah, we've all recovered, but we do have lingering effects. Like, I still get any extreme physical activity. Even just walking up the stairs, I have to be careful because I do struggle. I do get exhausted very easily. Same thing with my mom and my dad. Me and my mom both, our taste buds are a little sensitive, which is really frustrating when you're eating something, because you'll taste like extreme salt but no flavor. Our smells are fine. But yeah, it's honestly not a joke. Coronavirus,
I believe so. Yeah,
is not a joke. Even at the most minor case, it is still not a joke.
Yeah.
And also we just discovered or noticed that me and my mom are losing our hair.
Mm.
And that is a side effect in women because of the stress that your body goes through.
Oh, wow.
It causes women
Hmm.
to lose their hair. So my mom has it worse. I feel so bad for my mom because
Right.
hers is just way worse than what I'm experiencing. I've been losing my hair, but not as much as my mom. My mom actually has a bald spot
Oh, wow.
in her hair because she's just losing so much hair. Like it fills up her whole palm,
Yeah.
which is not good. But it's a temporary side effect from
Mhm.
COVID because of the stress that what our
Yeah.
bodies went through. I mean, we didn't for a whole week, I did not eat. Like I had to force food just to give me a slight amount of energy, but
Mm.
I just didn't want to eat. I lost 15 pounds. My mom lost 15 pounds. My dad lost 25 pounds. It was very damaging to our bodies
Yeah. Yeah.
going through that.
Yeah.
And it's not a joke. And it just, be being working in customer service, I'm seeing how many people just don't take this seriously.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just like, oh my God, like I got coronavirus.
Yeah.
I never want to go through that again. Like
That's
how,
terrible. Yeah.
and I know people who also got it, family members got it. They weren't as lucky. They
Mhm.
died. People, one of my friends from high school, she lost her dad
Oh.
the week before me and my family got
Mhm.
coronavirus.
Mhm.
And it was so hard going through that with her because she was her daddy's girl. She loved her dad. She was so close to her dad, and they lost her dad. And then a week later we get it, and then
Yeah.
all these things are going through my head. I'm like, oh my God, how bad is it going to get? Or what's going on with when my parents had to go to the hospital, I actually started to get worried. I
Mm.
wasn't worried when we were all sick, so I'm like, okay, it's been pretty consistent. I think we're going to overcome this. And then they went to the hospital, and then that's when panic kind of set in. I was like, oh my God, like are they going to be fine? Like how
Mhm.
bad is it? Like you know did we miss it? Did we miss the signs that it was going to be more
Yeah.
severe for them?
Yeah.
you know all these things just come up. And my dad ended up staying, and we were kind of like worried because they're not letting him go home. And then when he came home, they sent us, we had to he had to have a breathing machine for nighttime. He needed to carry an oxygen tank with him. And it's just, this was a minor case, and it was just so horrible.
Yeah.
And seeing people how they're not taking it serious. They don't want to wear their masks. Businesses have a procedure. They have these procedures to try and keep customers safe and the coworkers safe, and people just find it just like this really big inconvenience. And it's like, yeah, okay, it's a hassle having to wear a mask. It sucks. And because we can't breathe freely, and you can't just do things. You have to be cautious about everything you do. And I just don't understand how people just aren't taking it serious. We're a year into this,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
like,
I know. It's
what?
crazy. It's
What?
crazy.
Like,
I know. I agree with you. It's so crazy because I actually was about to ask you, like, why do you think that's the case? I mean, do you feel like is it because the fact that people just generally take things for granted, maybe take life for granted and not valuing it? Do you feel like
mhm.
that's the case?
Yeah. We are very spoiled here in our country. We are very spoiled. And I got to talk to people who are not from this country,
Mhm.
who have family in other countries like London, um, uh, Venezuela. They're way more strict over there. Whereas yes, we have these lockdowns, and we had the enforced curfew. Businesses had to stay closed. Even though all those things happened, people were still not following the rules. They just
Yeah.
was like, no, this is inconvenient.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can't go. I can't go out. I can't do this. It's like, well, yeah, we have a pandemic.
Yeah.
The deaths are rising every
Yeah.
day.
Yeah. Yeah.
You really shouldn't be socializing with people.
Mhm.
And um I don't know why some people just don't take it seriously. I don't know. I it just baffles me.
Yeah.
And then now with the vaccines, there's a lot of misunderstandings
Yeah.
about the vaccines because they think, oh, I got vaccinated, I'm
Hmm.
gonna be okay. It's like
Hmm.
you're not gonna die, but you could still catch it and still experience, minor
Yeah.
symptoms. And even those minor symptoms are not pleasant.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would take getting a flu over
Mm.
getting the coronavirus because at least the flu, there's medicine you can take that will help you
Of
to
course.
get through it. When we had the virus, there
Mm.
was nothing we could do to help get through it. We had to experience
Yeah.
the worst of it.
Yeah.
And it was like it was just so hard. It takes a toll on your body. I don't know. I really wish I
Mhm.
knew why. Like still to this day, people coming into the bookstore don't want to wear the mask. We have to kick them out,
Mhm.
and they just like, this is stupid, or I can only come in one way. I can only enter the building one way and I have to exit the other way. Why can't I just come out the way I came in? It's like, no,
Yeah.
6 feet apart, guys, six
Yeah.
feet apart.
Yeah.
We need to be, we care about our customers, but
Mhm.
we also care about ourselves.
Mhm.
And I don't know, maybe it's denial. People just don't want to accept that this is the new way of life.
Mm.
A
Okay.
lot of people say, oh, things are going to go back to normal. Things are going to go back to normal. It's like, no, it's never going to be that
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
That way of life that we knew
Yes.
is gone.
Yeah.
Like this is the new life. A we are establishing a new way of life now. It's like it's never going to be the way it was. I'm sorry, but
Yeah.
it's just not. We all wanted to, but
Yeah. So
we need to accept that
reality.
is this is new.
Yeah.
This is the way it's going to be.
Yeah.
Coronavirus is not going to go away.
Yeah.
We need to adapt and accept this. A lot of people just don't want to, I guess they're in denial. They just don't want to
That
accept it.
well, that's the thing. That's bad though too, right? Because like denial of anything is it's not healthy. On a
Uh-uh.
mental aspect because, like what you said, this is really the new culture, the new life, new reality. Wearing face mask is the thing now. You just have to do.
Mm-hmm.
Even with vaccines, I think CDC are saying that you still have to wear a mask, probably even until the end of this year, probably.
Yeah,
Um,
because
yeah,
there's 4 new strains. So you're getting vaccinated for the first strain that came out,
yeah,
but there's 4 new strains that the vaccine is not going to protect you from. So yeah, you still have to wear a mask
yeah, yeah,
because you're only protecting yourself from the first strain. But
yeah,
there's 4 new strains that we don't have a vaccine for yet that
yeah,
they're currently trying to, I guess,
yeah,
to get out there.
yeah,
But as of right now, it's like there's nothing,
mhm,
like you can still get it. So I could still get one of the new 4
yeah,
strains or all of them, and
yeah,
that, who knows, that
yeah,
could be even worse. I might not be as lucky. So yeah, like there's just a lot of people just not really understanding, not educating themselves. Denial and denial, yes, like you said, denial is unhealthy. It really is, because what comes from denial is anger, resentment. And
mm,
I'm seeing that a lot of people who don't want to accept what's going on are very aggressive about things. You ask them, like, I'm sorry, can you please put the mask over your nose? Because a lot of people walking around without the mask covering their nose, and they get really hostile and aggressive, like, oh, I'm wearing it. It's like, yeah, but your nose is exposed. So if you sneeze and something comes out your nose,
yeah,
it spreads.
yeah,
So, people are very hostile.
yeah,
and aggressive, and I'm seeing that in the people who are not they just don't want to accept
Mm, okay.
what our world has
Become,
become in the past year.
yeah.
So yeah, it's bringing out a lot of very aggressive, angry people, and
Okay.
it's just not healthy.
Of course. Absolutely. And to kind of follow up on that, I mean, from your point of view, I mean, obviously, one person can't change the world or change everything, but from your point of view,
Mhm.
how do you propose that we can kind of, I guess I don't want to say correct the issue, but at least change like people's perspective. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if this through like some kind of lectures that you need to like give people like, hey, this is no joke, or some kind of like, spiritual talk, whatever, right? Because this is something I've had multiple conversations with a lot of my friends and even some guests on this show, is that
Mhm.
I always I kind of keep pointing out that there's still so many people that seem to be kind of haven't really grown in really any way, even the fact that we're still going through the pandemic right now for the whole year. but
Yeah.
but then, naturally, when something kind of major happened, like a life-changing incident that happened, you know
Mhm.
you would kind of be a different person, right? I would think. But then,
You would think.
yeah, it's weird. It's such a weird. I don't know if it's some kind of phenomenon thing going. I don't know what the deal is, but
I don't,
um,
there, I think some people you just can't change their mind no matter what they go through. Some people are just set in their ways,
mhm,
and even though they've maybe even lost a family member to it, and they're still not taking it serious.
mhm,
I think it's just they're just set in their ways.
mm.
So when a way to, I guess, spread it or spread the gospel
Yeah, sure.
of taking this serious is to talk about it and say, hey, you know what, this is not a joke,
Mhm,
and it's up to the individual that you talk to make that decision to take it serious.
mhm,
But there are just some people you just can't you can't get through their head and their mind frame of
mhm,
what's going on. And usually it takes that individual to go through something
mhm,
severe in order for it to change their mind, and sometimes it just doesn't work.
mhm. Right.
uh my dad was one of those people who just wasn't taking it serious. He
Mhm,
would, like, oh, this is inconvenient. I hate wearing this
mhm,
mask. I hate not being able to go to dinner at a
mhm,
restaurant.
mhm,
Um, he was that way. And then he started to change his mind a little bit when people he worked with were losing family members, or they were losing people to it. Then he kind of started to change. He started to kind of be like, huh, this seems pretty dangerous. And then he got it. Went through, experienced
yeah.
it, and it changed. I think it changed his mind, because now he doesn't say like, oh, I hate wearing this mask, or I hate that we have to do this, or it's not easy to go do what we want to do. I think it's changed his mind.
Okay.
So I was kind of lucky that we were finally able to get him to really understand how serious it is. And I hate that it has to come to that for people, for them
Yeah.
to have to go through something like that
Right.
in order for them to say, oh, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, this is
Right.
serious.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah, yeah. Of course, you don't never want to wish ill on anyone, but
Mm-mm,
um,
no. Mm-mm.
and let me ask you this then: how has this experience changed you? I mean, if I mean, because I'm sure, you know, even before you actually got sick, I mean, you probably started to become a different person. But
Mm-hmm.
after going through this, I'm guessing it has to be some kind of life changing revelation,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I could. I could say that my mental health has been greatly affected.
Mm,
Um, Going through everything last year before I got sick was mentally hard on me. Realize I realizing that to do my career going forward in my career, I have to approach it differently now because it's even our career doing the film industry, things have changed and
mhm,
that's how they're going to be.
mhm,
So it's like, okay, now it's going to be, I have to I have to see things differently
mhm,
because that has changed. I feel maybe it's just because of right now what's going on, but I kind of feel like it's going to be more challenging for me personally. I think it's going to be more challenging just seeing how things are.
mhm,
I mean, it's not going to be this way
mhm.
forever. Things will improve, but as of right now, it feels like it's going to be a little more complicated. There's going to be more bumps in the road than there was already. So I guess I need to mentally, uh, like just my mental health. I need to take more steps
Mm,
to treat it and prepare myself for what's going to come because I
okay.
know it's going to be more difficult. There's going to be more challenges and I need to prepare myself and I need to be able to overcome that.
Okay.
Because I guess right since I guess right now I've kind of just put a pause on that because I just feel like for me mentally I need I need some stability because I didn't have any of that last year
Yeah.
and I just feel like I need stability so I can breathe.
Okay. Did you find yourself like kind of drifting towards like depression, like that kind of deal too, you know?
Um so personally like off to the side, I've dealt with depression for a very long time. I do have depression. I have anxiety. Um that's something I've always had
Mm.
and I've always been dealing with. Yes, it got worse last year.
Oh, yeah.
um yes, it's not very good right now. So that's kind of a priority for me right now is really trying to work on that because last year was just man, it really
Oh,
just
yeah.
ripped me apart.
Oh, yeah. Well, I know what you mean. Someone with, I'm well, because I have a little bit of anxiety myself. You know, I've
Mhm.
had depression issues too. So for someone with like, you know, anxiety or mental health problems, yeah, the lockdown pandemic is just like you're shooting it up to the max.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, well, it was so horrible. My dog, I've had her for 15 years. I had to put her down
Uh,
because she just got so old. Doing that right in the peak of the pandemic, losing her,
mm,
losing my career, like my creative outlet, having to be stuck at home. Um, I'm a homebody
mm,
and I'm an introvert,
mm,
but when it becomes something that's not your choice, it really it really just damages you because it's like,
mm,
yeah, I'm an introvert. Yeah, I like being home.
yeah.
But when it turns into something where it's not my choice, it's like I have to stay home and isolate. That really messes with you
Hmm.
mentally because it's not your choice.
Yeah.
Usually it is my choice. Even though
Yeah.
it's not a good choice, it's still my choice.
Yeah.
When it becomes not your choice, that's
Mhm.
when it really damages you.
Mhm. Of course.
So I had that all last year. So now it's like, okay, I need to do damage control on that because I wasn't able to do anything about it. There was just nothing I could do about it. It was just happening. So now I'm trying to fix it. I'm working on it and trying to repair everything I went through last year. Because it was just hard. I didn't try and work on my mental health last year. I just was like, I'm a mess.
Mm,
I'm just gonna be a mess
okay.
because
Okay. And
yeah.
because I mean, you did mention that, kind of, even before pandemic, you've always had some depression issues. And I mean, I
Hmm.
know that there are a lot of, a lot of people are probably experiencing the same thing,
Yeah.
for those who's listening or not, because I think a lot of people are more open about talking about mental health, and so
Hmm.
from your experience and from your point of view, how were you even dealing with, like, whatever issues you had before, even before the pandemic? Like, what were some of the things that you were doing to deal with it? I mean,
Mm. Uh, so when I was in my mid-20s, I decided to do therapy.
okay,
So I've been in therapy on and off.
okay,
Um, Pre-pandemic, I want to say actually, so I've been in this program for the union for 3 years now.
hmm hmm
Before I started that program, I felt like I had a good grip on my mental health. I was consistent with my therapy. I was opening up to my mom and talking to her about anything that was bothering me. I started to allow myself to feel comfortable opening up to her and talking to her, doing my therapy, and I had control. I was
mm
doing well. And then this I decided, I did this program, and school had to become my priority versus
mm
working.
mm.
And I don't know what happened, but that just something just clicked and I reverted back. I
Oh,
lost control. My I lost all that control I had. So I was struggling because I wasn't confident anymore. I struggled to take work, to
oh
go
no.
to jobs, especially jobs where I didn't know anyone. My anxiety would just hit
Mm-hmm.
the highest.
Mm-hmm.
And the night before work, the night before a project, I would just panic. I couldn't breathe. I was crying. I was freaking out. I didn't want to leave my room. I didn't even want to talk to anyone. It was just that. And it's been that. Um, Honestly, it hasn't really,
Wow,
it's still
wow.
kind of that issue.
Yeah,
And I hate it. It's because
yeah,
that wasn't me before.
yeah,
Anytime someone called me for work, yeah, let's do it. The
yeah,
day you call me the day of, yeah, I'll be there.
yeah.
That went away. And now it's like,
Mm,
um, the past 3 years, it's been really hard. And I don't feel like I'm me. I
mm,
told my mom was like worried. She's like, maybe you shouldn't be doing this because look at what it's doing to you mentally. And I'm like, no, no, no. I promise you, this is not right now. This is not me. I'm
mhm.
not who I am because something something happened. I don't know what, but something happened and it just had me revert back to
Uh,
be someone who had no control of my emotions and my anxieties. I have an anxiety disorder. So with a disorder, anything can trigger it. Anything can happen and set you down that
yeah,
path.
yeah.
And once you're down that path, you just spiral out of control and there's nothing you can do really to to get better or to feel better in that moment because it's a
Mm,
disorder.
right. I see what you.
Anything can be a trigger to me.
Right, right. Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I know what you mean. I mean, I mean, that's the reason why, like, a lot of doctors always just prescribe drugs to people, right? Because
Mhm.
even though, like, drugs only help to a certain extent, I mean, because at the end of the day, I mean, anxiety, depression, all the mental health stuff is really more than just that's the thing that like a lot of people still have a misconception about, is that a lot of times they always say it's a chemical imbalance, which yes is partially true, but there's actually a lot of like really numerous factors that contributes to, you know, all the mental health type of, you know, depression or whatever we have. And so I don't think a lot of people really understand that aspect of it. Like maybe even some doctors, or maybe they do, I don't know, but you know.
Yeah.
So,
I definitely am on medications for it. But medications aren't
they're
a
not the answer.
fix.
They're not the answer.
No, it's supposed to help you. It's kind of like a cushion. It's just kind of like, okay, I'm gonna give you a little boost, but it really it's just something you just have to really figure out. It's so hard to navigate
Yeah.
anxiety
Yeah.
and depression because it does stem from something that happened in your life. And for a long time, I did not know
Mm.
why.
Mm.
And 2 years ago, I decided to do hypnosis therapy, a
Oh,
hypnosis therapy session.
okay.
And that, so before I, did the actual hypnosis, the doctor talked to me.
Okay.
And she was like, she asked me a series of questions to figure out why
Mm.
I am where I am. And doing that, answering her questions and talking, it clicked in my head. Something just clicked. And I was like, oh, I know why I am the way I am, or,
Oh.
why I worry about it because of my past trauma with, one of my biggest fears is failure. I don't want to be a failure. I don't want to disappoint my mom. I don't want to disappoint my stepdad.
Mm.
Because I want them to be proud and happy with who I am. So, I when I started having anxieties with work, one of the things that I was stressing about is like, I'm a failure. I'm a failure to myself. I'm a failure to my parents because I'm not doing this. I fought hard, especially with my parents,
Mm.
to be in the film industry because
Yeah.
they were just, that's not a job. No, you can't do that. And
Yeah.
I fought hard to convince them that this is where I belong. This is
Yeah.
my career path.
Yeah.
And after all that fighting and convincing, and then for me to go, for me to then to go to having really major anxiety issues and not being able to go to a job, that was just, I was worried that they weren't going to support me anymore. My mom is my support system,
Yeah.
especially. And I was worried, like, if I lose that support system, I'm not going to be able to do this.
Mm.
I need that.
Mm.
So my concern was like, I was going to be a failure to her. And then she was going to say, that's it. You can't do this anymore. You need to get a real job and not do this. That was a big thing that really just destroyed me every time. So,
Oh wow.
uh,
So
so
that
I,
was okay. I see. I see. So that was that was the discovery that you had with the hypnosis therapy.
yeah, with the questions that she was talking to me about, because my biological dad was very verbally abusive to me,
Oh.
and that is why I have my anxieties and my depression, because when I was, he was very abusive verbally to me since I was born,
Oh wow.
or since I ever since I can remember.
Oh, that's
And
terrible.
at the critical age where you are developing as a person,
Hmm.
him being so mentally abusive towards me, that is how my mind developed. That is how I developed. So I wasn't even aware
Mm.
that was, that's where it stemmed from. So with my hypnosis therapist, it came to a realization that my the question, okay, the question that she asked me was, have you ever been bullied? And I was like, no, I've never been bullied. People didn't bully me at school or anything. And then I paused and I was like, wait, my dad. My dad, because he always told me like, "Oh, you're fat. You're not pretty. How come you're not smart? Oh, you got a C in this class. Why didn't you get it?" He was just would just rip me apart. And I realized, wait, my dad used to,
Mm,
always put me down. Is that a form of bullying? She's like, yeah. And that's where it clicked. I was like, oh, okay. So that's where that comes from.
oh
And
wow.
even though I realize that, I still am afraid of failure. I
Yeah.
don't want to be a failure. I don't want to fail myself. I don't want to fail my
Yeah.
parents.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I realized that through my hypnosis. And,
Right.
it does stem from something.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. Because like, because throughout this whole time, your mind, this is why the mind is so tricky. The
Mm-hmm.
mind's just basically putting up all these defense mechanisms
Mm-hmm.
for yourself to kind of cope with and kind of in some sense make yourself feel better. Uh
Yeah.
and that's how a lot of it happens, like what you said, during that development period, because you don't even know that your mind is doing that,
Mm-hmm.
but that's just
Mm-hmm.
that's just the way how it tricks you. So it's such a it's such a really like out it is kind of like crazy how the mind can do so much, right?
Yeah.
And
And honestly, it, these things, it's so hard
yeah.
to to treat it,
Yes.
because mental disorders, you can't really, there's no like way to really treat it other than
Right.
talking it out,
Yes.
figuring out ways to cope, and really just cope. I wasn't coping. My thing was just shut down,
Mm,
cry, lock myself in my room,
mm,
don't go out, don't talk to anybody,
mm,
and
mm,
just beat myself up over it.
mm, mm.
I wasn't coping with it.
Yeah.
And now, um currently, or since the past year, is like, okay, I need to find ways to cope and treat it,
Yeah.
because I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
I was doing therapy, yeah, I'm on medications, but I need to cope with it. I can't
Right.
just shut down,
Yeah. Okay.
because that's my natural thing to go through,
Yeah.
is shut down.
Yeah.
Just
Oh yeah. That's dangerous.
woe me,
Right.
shut down,
Right.
put myself down. And I need to not do that. I need to actually work on it.
Okay.
And that's the hard thing,
Yes.
it's really hard to do that.
Absolutely. It's I mean it's very tough. Oh, but the positive way to look at it is that, you know, I mean, a lot of times when someone suffers like, mental illness, whether
Mhm.
it's a disorder or whatever it is, it's very often that you always feel like you're the only one that's going through it and no one else is. But
Mm,
then it's funny because and I think that's where all the connection and with human connection, talking it out, why it helps so much, because you realize that a lot of people are actually feeling the same way, just no one wants to
mhm.
really express themselves, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and no, I absolutely understand, because for me, many years, that's kind of how I felt too. Because, well, for me especially, because um, for a male to say that they have mental issues or mental health issues, that's even like a bigger stigma and bigger no-no.
Mhm.
For
Yeah.
actually for males, is in that aspect is actually even more stressful, more pressure, because we aren't supposed to admit that we have issues,
Yeah.
because we're males, right? In this society, we're not supposed to.
Yeah. Because it's a sign of weakness,
Yeah.
and people don't want to accept that a man can be weak, but a woman can be weak.
Yes.
Hey, no problem. Oh
Yeah.
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 She
Yeah.
got
Yeah.
she got mental issues.
She's just being emotional. She's just being a drama queen or whatever, right? But
Yeah, so for women, it's more acceptable, and yeah, you're just like, "Oh, okay." But when a guy has it, you're like, "Oh." Are you what? You
Yeah, yeah,
be a man.
yeah. Like like something's wrong with you, whatever, right? And that's why that's actually one part of the progression I liked ever well, not just even ever since the pandemic happened, but I think the last few years what I've seen is that progression, that more and more people are starting to be very outspoken in that area.
Yeah.
And that's great though, because that's what kind of what you need,
Mm-hmm.
and because if there's like a bunch of these movements going on with, obviously Black Lives Matter and justice and all that, then this is also another sign of progression too, have people being outspoken about it, and I think that's very important. um
Yeah, we really need to normalize it in
yes.
a way, because it's very common. A lot of people have it.
Oh yeah,
It's
very common.
it's so common that even, I mean, you could say everyone experiences some form of depression and anxiety.
Yeah.
Like it's very common, and we need to not feel ashamed that we have those anxieties, the depression. We need to not feel ashamed or embarrassed, um, or be secretive about it, because the more people talk about it, the more normalized it becomes, and then the more we can actually say, okay, we have this issue, what can we do to work on it? Because
Yeah.
people are ashamed or
Yeah,
embarrassed by it, they don't talk about it, and they don't get better.
that's true. I no, I absolutely agree with you. I think everyone should. Um and and it's just the only reason why not everyone's doing it is because I mean, okay, well, one good reason too, I've always talked to my other friends about this is,
Mhm.
social media is also a really huge cause for it, because
Mhm.
no one really wants to post on social media that you have issues. Like,
Right.
no one wants to see that, right? Everyone wants to see like the glamorous life, the
Mhm.
highlights. They're like, I don't care if you are depressed right now, whatever. No, it is really how
Yeah.
most people think. And the problem is that now everyone's starting to develop that habit, because
Mhm.
social media is just such a huge part of our lives now, to the point that
Yeah.
kind of how people are acting like. And no, you're
Mhm.
absolutely right, it's very bad.
I
And
think
yeah.
I think because social media is so big, I think now there's going to be more depression and anxieties
Mm,
in the newer generations, because that's some okay, I didn't when I was a teenager, computers weren't a thing. People didn't have computers. People didn't even have cell phones.
yes.
Um, I remember when Facebook was just for college people when it came out, and MySpace was an actual dating site and
Yeah.
not a social
Yeah.
not a social thing.
Yeah.
And I'm very lucky those things weren't existing, or when they came about I was old enough where it wasn't common for people to have all those things. And I'm so thankful
Mm,
because God, the teenagers now, it's terrifying um what they go through now,
yeah.
because if you don't have social media, they're going to ridicule you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, you don't have good pictures?
Yeah.
Oh, you're a loser. Like
Yeah.
there's so much pressure now, and
Yeah. It's crazy.
it scares me for it's I'm afraid for the younger people, because
Oh yeah.
they have so many pressures now, and that's going to cause depressions, anxieties. I mean, look, there was there was younger kids like who were in middle school who were committing suicide because they were being bullied online.
Mm,
Like that's horrible. A kid, not even a
yeah.
teenager,
Yeah.
commits
Yeah.
suicide because they're
Yeah.
being bullied online,
Yeah.
because they're not conforming to the popular kids on Facebook or
Yeah.
whatever.
Because their
And
followers,
that's
their followers count were low or whatever. Yeah.
I know, it's so like terrifying terrifying to me. I was watching Euphoria, which I really like the show,
Mm-hmm.
and it's all teenagers, but man, seeing what they go through, I was like, oh my God, I'm so scared to have a kid in the future because that's the
Yeah.
life they're gonna have.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
terrified because
Mhm.
God, who knows what damage
Yeah.
technology can do to them, because I didn't grow up with that.
Yeah.
So you know, I didn't have to, there wasn't really that pressure
Mm-hmm.
with me having to keep up with the popular kids.
Yeah.
I just, you know, I didn't have that pressure.
Yeah.
And now there is that
Mhm.
pressure, and it's just really terrifying
Oh, yeah, I
for
know
the
it is.
generations.
It is. Okay. Well, we okay, we're gonna try to end this on a positive note.
Yeah.
So the final
Okay.
final question I have for you is that
Mhm.
obviously you're, you know, trying to treat your mental health, getting revert back to, how you were before, which is the good part.
Mhm.
Um, so aside from doing that, how for you, like how are you, not how are you, but what are some ways that you're gonna take action to try to help other people who are also experiencing the same issues?
I I am working on being more open about my personal issues.
Mm,
Um, I I don't want to be ashamed about it. I don't want to keep it a secret as much as I mean, I'm not proud of it,
yeah,
but this is not me, like, I'm not going to, like, when I talk about it and I'm open about it, even on social media, I'm not doing it to show off
yeah,
or, you
yeah,
know, I'm doing it because I'm hoping that we can normalize it in a way where
mm,
we feel safe acknowledging it.
mm, mm,
So if I'm more open about it with
yeah,
others,
yeah,
hopefully they feel more open about it. And then hopefully that takes away some of that shame or
mm,
guilt or any
right. That's great.
negative damaging thing to
Great,
it.
great.
So if we're more open about it and we share it,
Yeah,
hopefully that um
creates a
oh
conversation.
yes, and hopefully that makes the other person
Yeah,
um feel, I guess, to have like a safe
great,
space where they're
great,
not going to be judged by it,
great.
because that's what makes it hard, is when you feel that you can't be honest about
Yeah,
the real things that are going on in your life. Because yeah, I mean, social media, it's all fake, and you know, everyone goes through stuff,
yeah,
everyone
yeah,
goes through, you know, no one's life is perfect,
yeah.
you know. So
Absolutely.
really just being more open, we need to normalize it. I'm not saying like, hey, let's just all be depressed and have anxiety
Yeah,
and not do anything about it. No, we need to actively be working on
yeah.
it. But let's make it where it's not something where people are
Right.
ashamed of. I don't want people to feel ashamed, because I felt that.
Yeah, of course.
And I'm still struggling with
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
but I personally, I don't want to see people be ashamed
Okay, great. Oh
for
man,
going through those things.
that's great that you have that plan to do that, and I hope that people are listening because like what Rosie said, yes, being open, encouraging to be open and not be ashamed. I think that's a great way to end this episode because we did cover a lot of heavy topics, but
Yeah.
even those heavy topics, but it's very necessary, that we need to talk about.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I guess this is where we'll go to wrap it up tonight, and yeah, I'm sure we'll have Rosie back on at some point in the future
Yeah.
to chat more. Hopefully to make the world a better place. Make people feel more together and welcome each other. I think that's very important. Yeah, and
Yeah.
also COVID's no joke, mental health no joke, none of all that's no joke.
Right.
Yeah, and
Right.
yep. And actually, I did forget to mention in the very beginning of the podcast, so if people want to relax after listening to this heavy episode, the tea I was drinking earlier was called the True Blueberry Herbal Tea. The brand is
Ooh.
Celestial Seasonings, caffeine free. Yeah, you can buy it at any store. I'll have it in the I'll post it in the description for people. So yeah, that's for relaxation after this episode. And yeah,
Yeah. It's like, woo, that was heavy.
that was too much. Um, yeah. So anything that we've discussed today that that's going to be helpful for people, I'm going to post them on the description as well, so people can read about it and know about it, which is good. I think people should all they should all educate themselves in many
Yeah.
ways. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I want to say thank you very much, Rosie, for coming on. It's been a
Yeah.
lovely conversation. I know it got a little personal there. Hope that it's not too personal for you.
But see, I'm practicing that,
That was
being
great.
more open and not, being ashamed of it, even though it's not something I'm proud of, but
That's great.
it's the
Yeah,
truth.
it's true. No, I love that
Yeah.
progression. Great. Yeah, no, but yeah, thank you. I love the progression, and
Oh, thank you.
thank you for everyone who's listening and who's tuning in. Really appreciate it. But of course, keep listening. I always have great conversations upcoming.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. So thank you, everyone, and see you all.
Yeah. Thank you.